Hello, BookTube. Hello, friends. Welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and it is Friday, so I thought I would do a quick Friday reads. I'm going to stay behind the camera, frankly, because I'm just a little bit too lazy right now to get camera ready, and it's like 5:30 p.m. My husband's on his way home, and I need to get dinner started, and I'm just going to do this like this. So, anyway, what you're looking at here is the bottom two shelves of my staging shelf. This is where I generally keep the books that I'm reading in any given month. Now, the white shelf to your left, that's my Christian fiction. What I'm talking about is the narrow shelf here. There's one more shelf there, but what's on top is the 4 books that I had kind of hoped I might get to in August, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to leave them there until next month, or September, October, and work on those there. So anyway, I have taken off the ones that I'm currently reading, and I've got them over here behind me on a table. I'm going to show you those in a minute. But what you're looking at here are all books that I've completed in the month of August in the narrow shelf, both the top shelf and the bottom shelf. Most of them are just physical copies of books I listen to on audio. There are at least 3 books that I read in print, and I'm working on some other print books right now that I should have finished by the end of the month, which is coming up in just a few days. So let's go now to my computer. I'm going to show you the books that I finished this past week that I don't have physical copies of. They were on Audible and Hoopla, and then we'll talk about the books that I'm currently reading and hope to finish by the end of the month. Okay, here we are in my dining room / kitchen. This is normally not where the computer sits. It normally sits behind me on the kitchen counter, but Emily started e-school this week, and so she usually sits over there in that chair with the green closet in the background. That way we don't have to worry about people going behind her, and it's just a good, clean background for her to sit at while she's doing e-school. And it's like a Zoom meeting, only it's something called Schoology, and her teacher's on there, and a para, and the other kids in her class, so they can all see each other. So anyway, computer's here. This is opened up to my Goodreads, and I want to show you the books that I don't have physical copies of that I finished this week. I kind of already talked about this one because I finished this on Sunday, and I didn't get my last week's Friday reads done until Monday. So I already mentioned this one. This is Mystic Park by Regina Hart. This is going to count on the Summer Fling Readathon for an author of color. This is book 4 in the Finding Home series, and I like this okay, but it definitely has some steamy parts which are not to my taste. The cover's beautiful though, and it's about a man who's a high school or college music teacher, and he's producing a play in his hometown, and then there's all the other relationships of the people in the town and different romances and things like that. So that's pretty much what that is about. So then I got that on the Audible Escape package. Then I have 2 more that I also got on Audible Escape. I listened to the first book in this series, I don't know if it was last year or earlier this year. The series is called Uncharted, and it's kind of a post-apocalyptic, but yet it seems historical, because this people in this community live in a land that is uncharted. It's off the map, and it's somehow shielded by clouds or whatever. I don't know. But these people live there basically protected from the outside world. And meanwhile, there's like World War IV going on around them. And at certain times of the year, maybe, I'm trying to remember, there's like, it might be solstice or something, when there's almost like a gateway where people, every once in a while, once every few decades, somebody is able to stumble their way into this land. So that's what happened in the first book. This guy who was a pilot somehow, I guess his plane was going down and he was in a parachute, so he parachuted into this land accidentally, and he didn't have a way out, but he ended up really loving it there, and he gets married. So now him and his wife are expecting a baby, maybe even their second or third, I think. I don't even know. And so now another person who has been looking for that man, who was also in the military, and he kind of saw where he went down, and he suspects that, something weird is up. And so I forget how, but he finds his way to this land. Well, he's not quite as good of a person as the first guy, but anyway, it all works itself out. And then I also went ahead and listened to, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm confusing, I think I am confusing it with the third book. What I just described to you happens in the third book. What happens in this book, Uncharted Redemption, is more about just the people who are already there. There's this one family who sort of separated themselves from the main community, and they're basically criminals, and they end up kidnapping a couple of girls from the main town because they think, that's really the only way they're going to get a wife. And so the people from the town have to rescue them. That's what happened in Uncharted Redemption. Then in book 3, which is Uncharted Inheritance, this is when another guy finds his way into the community. And so that's the story I had basically already described. Anyway, these are really good books. They're clean. I don't know if they're considered Christian or not. I wouldn't really consider them Christian, but just very clean. And the people in the books are almost kind of Quakerish, sort of Puritan, those type of values, almost kind of a cross between Quaker and Amish. They just live very old school style, and it's really cool. And their ancestors made that decision because, like I said, this is way into the future. So there were some people, maybe like supposed to be like in our time right now, who somehow found this land and founded it and made the decision to live that lifestyle and not conform to technology and all of that. And so they sort of live protected. I can't remember how they are able to do that, but as far as, keeping themselves protected. But anyway, that's just part of the story. So there are several more books in the series. I will definitely read more. I think I'm going to hold off until probably December, though, because if I recall correctly, the next book is a Christmas theme. Yes, Christmas with the Colburns is the next book. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my books that I have read. I believe that, yes, the next 3 that I have finished this week, I have physical copies of. The next one, Bound by Duty, I'll just show it to you here. This is book 2 in the Military Canine series by Valerie Hansen. And this is about, it's kind of a continuing story from book 1. The criminal in book 1 has not been found. There were 2 criminals. There's an overarching story that takes place that's going to continue through all of the books. This Red Rose killer is on the loose. There was another crime in the first book that was wrapped up, but they never found this Red Rose killer. But his half-sister or stepsister or somebody is also a military personnel on this same base, and they have her under surveillance because they think that maybe her brother will try to contact her. Meanwhile, she doesn't want anything to do with her brother. She's trying to convince them that, she's not a criminal. She just wants to do her job. And she has this little boy. And so the other man, the man that's represented there, I think he's the canine person who is assigned to watch her, and then romance ensues. This is love inspired suspense, and so it is action packed, and it is faith based, so I definitely enjoyed this a lot. Then the next book I finished, I also got on Audible, Escape. It is What We Find by Robin Carr. This is the first book in the Sullivan's Crossing series. This is very steamy. I kind of thought it was probably going to be, but I had heard Sarah talk about this maybe a couple of years ago, and I had put it on my Audible Escape library, or in my library, and it's just been hanging out there waiting to be listened to. And I think Donna from Paradonna Palimpsest also read it back when Sarah read it, maybe for Summer Romance Book Bingo. I don't even think it was last year. I think it was year before last. And anyway, I finally just wanted to get it done and get it off my shelf. And so this is a library copy. I just wanted to go ahead and grab a physical copy of it. So I checked this out yesterday, but I did listen to it on audio, and it's a pretty good story. It's about a neurosurgeon, I believe, or a spinal surgeon, and she's being sued. So she just takes some time off and goes to see her father, who runs what is he, like a marina type store or a camping store. I can't even remember where. That's terrible. I did love the setting though. It was good. And there's a man there who is also taking a sabbatical from his work. She doesn't know at first. She just thinks he's like a homeless guy, but he's actually a lawyer, and he's taking some time off, and they become romantically involved. It does get pretty steamy, definitely more than is to my taste, but their stories were interesting. I thought the characters were, for the most part, all very likable, and I really did enjoy the campground setting. And then the book I just read today is a sweet little children's story called Fry Bread, and it is by, I think it's Kevin Noble. I don't know if you say it Millard or Maillard. And I noticed that this won a medal. It's actually the 2020 medal winner of the Robert F. Siebert Medal, which is a medal given to a children's literature, or an author or illustrator, or author and illustrator that makes a contribution to informational children's literature. And this is a Native American story. They, I think, represented all of the tribes in North America in this book, and used fry bread as kind of a catalyst to carry the story through and talk about Native American history and culture. And then the author expands on each of the sections in the back as in his notes, and it's just very well done. Let me pause the camera for a minute, and I'm going to change positions, and I'll flip through it a little bit. Here in the Endpapers, all of the tribes are represented, and then the illustrations are beautiful, and it's just very well done. Each section is kind of a little poetic narrative. And then in the back, like for instance, this one here, Fry Bread is Art. Okay, so notate the skirt here and the dolls. So then in the back, in his notes, there is the author's recipe for fry bread, which he acknowledges is very different than other Native American tribes. This is just the one that he was taught. And he talks about how, no matter how you think fry bread should be, yours is right and everyone else's is wrong. So anyway, and this is his aunt who, and he says that's how they pronounce it. Now me, I always said aunt, but anyway, he says they pronounce it aunt, and that's his Aunt Fanny who taught him to make fry bread. And so then in his notes, he talks about each section, and like in the one that is Fry Bread is Art, he talks about the skirt and the dolls and things like that, and how those were represented back in the story. So anyway, that is just this in a little nutshell. And I didn't really know about this medal, the Robert F. Siebert medal. It started in 2001, and so perhaps when I get done with all of my Newbery projects, I might go back and look for these Siebert medal winners. That might be very interesting. But since I do have some Native American heritage in the Choctaw tribe and a little bit in the Cherokee tribe, I thought that this would be a fun book. And I don't even know how I learned about it, but it is a fairly new book. And I was thankful that our library had it because I really did enjoy it. Before I head back into the living room to show you what I'm currently reading, I every once in a while like to show you what my kids are reading. And this Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the first book, is actually what Emily's teacher is reading to her class a little bit every day for as part of their e-school. And so that's why it's in here, and Emily has been flipping through it, and we've been following along with the teacher. And then Katie has just read a book. She read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. She got interested in this because she saw a girl post something about it, and this girl was like crying, and she was like, oh, this book messed me up and all that. And she's like, so I was just curious about it. And I was like, you wanted it to mess you up? And she's like, no. And, but she said that she didn't really, it didn't have quite the same emotional effect on her that it did on the other girl, although she told me a little bit about it and gave me the spoilers, so I already know how it ends. And I guess I can see why it might be disturbing to other people. If you're hearing a noise, it's because our new dog Louie happens to be laying against the closet door and scratching, so he's making noise. Anyway, I guess I could show you Louie. I did mention him the other day, and while he's scratching. Louie, hi. You say hi. Hi. And now, of course, when I said that, Bob has to come. Well, Bob's behind me. Anyway, that was Louie. He's Katie's new dog. Now they're taken off together. They get along really great. Both are Catahoulas. Okay, so of my current reads, most of them I have physical copies of, but I'll show you this one here because I do only have a CD copy of this, and it's in my car. I'm almost done with this. I've been listening to it for, I guess, most of the month. The Lost and Found Bookshop by Susan Wiggs. This is book 3 in the Bella Vista Chronicles. I've only read the first book. I didn't love it. In fact, I didn't even realize this was part of the Bella Vista Chronicles until I checked it out. But, I mean, I think pretty much any of them can be read as standalones. There is at least one crossover character from the first book, and I'll go back and listen to the second book. Anyway, this is really good. There's just been like a couple little things that kind of made me frustrated. For one thing, there's kind of a love triangle, sort of, although you can kind of see which way the leading lady is going to go. But for most of the book, she thought that this guy was married, and it was literally, okay, I'm on the next to the last disc. There's 10 discs, so I'm halfway into disc 9. And it wasn't until 75% in the book that the main character finally learned that this guy who is the love interest is divorced. And I don't know how many times throughout the book she kept talking about, how she was kind of attracted to him, but, I wonder what his wife is doing, whatever. And so she just kept on and on and on. And I thought, okay, enough already. Just let her find out that he's married or not married. So anyway, that was kind of frustrating. All right, well, Dad has just walked in the door, and the dogs are going crazy. So I'm going to pause this here, and I'll come back later and finish up and show you what I'm currently reading that I hope to finish by the end of the month. Okay, super fast, just to show you what I'm currently reading and what I I'm going to keep working on up through the end of the month. I am almost done with Arrow Point by Suzanne Ellison. This is for the diversity prompt for the summer fling. I'm buddy reading this with Mandy Garrett, who is also a booktuber, and she's probably done by now. I saw a message from her that she had read the like next to the last 2 chapters, and so just had 1 chapter to go. I've still got the last 3 chapters to read, so I'm going to try to read some of that tonight. I may not get it finished until tomorrow. I also just started Rustler's Moon by Jodie Thomas on Audible. It's on the Audible Escape package. Now, I had already started Scarlet by Marissa Meyer as a reread, and I haven't picked it up this week. Same for Right Package, Wrong Baggage. I have not picked that up this week, but I hope to. And then Glory, I was in my garage. I forgot that I had a copy of Glory on its own. I've been reading it out of this bind up of Glory, Ruth, and Patience. So I pulled this out of the garage, and I thought this would be a lot lighter weight just to hold on to while I'm finishing it. And I haven't even moved my bookmark over yet. But I'm several chapters in, and it's really good. It's a mail-order bride story. And I am almost done with the Book of the Everglades. I have been reading that a little bit each day, and see, I am right at the end. Same for this one, Don't Check Your Brains at the Door by Josh McDowell. I am right at the end. I've been reading just a couple pages a day for my morning devotional for this one. And I haven't picked this up this week either, but this is in preparation for my next Newbery video. The Book of Three by Lloyd Alexander is the first book in the series of the Chronicles of Prydain. The 5th book is a Newbery winner from the 60s, so I'm trying to read that whole series. And then these are the last 2 books that I have not started that I need to read for Summer Fling prompts. Boop and Eve's Road Trip by Mary Helen Sheriff and A Girl to Come Home To by Grace Livingston Hill. So if I could, like finish most of these and maybe at least just get started on these, then I would be pretty happy about my Summer Fling reading. I am really pretty much almost done with the prompts. So that's all about it. I will be back in a few days with a wrap up for the Summer Fling Readathon and for August. And probably before that, I'll go ahead and do a TBR for the fall. I had said that I wasn't going to do any readathons for the fall. I was just going to work on my 20 by 20 challenge. But this really cool fall readathon was announced, and I'm pretty sure that I can just fit in the stuff that I was already going to read into the prompts, and it'll be fun. Plus, Mandy from the channel Mandy Garrett, who I'm buddy reading this with, is doing her Mandy-a-thon again for the month of October, and that's just 5 prompts. So, again, those are going to fit real easily with what I'm already planning to read. So that's all for this video. That's all for my Friday reads. I'll be back soon with another video. Let me know what you're reading this weekend. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.